Hey y'all, it's Logan Webster from Camo Retro. Today I'm gonna go through the process of how I clean ducks, what I'm gonna pull off one duck versus another, when I'm gonna keep the fat on the breast, when I'm not, that kind of stuff. We're gonna take breast, we're gonna take legs, and we're gonna pull the heart out under that sternum. So let's get after it. I'm gonna clean a Drake gadwall and a Drake mallard. I love to keep the fat on when it's there. Generally with your greenhead mallards, it's always going to be there. I'm going to pluck and cut these breasts out with the fat on. For the gadwalls and other ducks, kind of a toss-up, but something that's going to tell me what I'm going to do immediately is if it's kind of shot up in the breast. I'm not going to go through the process of plucking it. Let's go ahead and start with the gadwall. So to begin, I'm going to take my thumb and look for the bottom of that breastplate. I've got it right here. There's a good ridge, and I'm pushing my thumb through the bottom of that breastplate. I'm going to take my other thumb, put it to the side of it, and just spread to each side. So that's what it's looking like now. And I'm going to take my thumb and just run it up the middle of that breastplate. The more fat there is on a bird, generally the easier this is. But again, if the bird has the fat, I'm wanting to pluck it and pull that fat off with the breast. So I'm just trying to run up under the fat, keeping it off of there as much as possible, trying to not pull the meat off with the fat, but I'm pulling that back as much as I can, and that's a good exposed breast. We're going to go ahead and cut that out. What I like to do is just cut right along that sternum, and there's plenty of ways to do this. This is the way I do it. So using the point of it to get in there and just pull it back from the sternum, that's what we're looking for. And then for the other breast, I like to go ahead and flip it around just so you've got that same motion. Clean duck after duck after duck. If you're constantly flipping which direction you're cutting, it just gives you another chance to cut yourself. Again, cutting by that sternum. Peeling that back as much as I can. There you go. Now we're going to see how the legs are on this. Drakes are going to have the beefier legs generally, and I don't bother with the legs unless it's the bigger birds. Gadwalls, mallards, spoonies, that kind of thing. And sometimes they just don't have the legs. It's kind of a toss-up. There's some decent ones on this one. So what I do is I'm starting up here at the top of the leg and just working my way down. I'm wanting to separate the fat from that leg all the way around. It's okay if there's some feathers left on there. And you can do it leg on or leg off if you want that dramatic effect or flair with whatever dish you're going to be cooking with it. Once I've got that fat pulled all the way around it, I'm going to pull this fat back and go as much back here as I can. Now that I've got an exposed leg, I'll take my thumb, put it on what would kind of be its kneecap, and then put my index finger at the hip. I can feel that hip joint right there, that ball joint. All I'm gonna do is pop it off, and you should be able to hear this. At this point, it's as simple as pulling that off. Good little piece of meat right there. You gotta be careful with leg bones if they're all busted up. They get really fragmented, they're incredibly sharp, they're hollow. So just be really careful when throwing a busted leg into any kind of recipe. So I'm gonna do the other leg, just working that meat down, that fat down, pulling it off. I'm going to do the same thing, index finger on the hip, if you will, and then thumb on the knee. I don't know if it's called the knee. And there it is. I just pulled it right off of there. Now we're going to go for the heart. You get to the heart, put that thumb under there, just grab everything else with your palm and just pull up. So here's the heart right here. Sometimes it's got a lot of trauma and is all bubbled up, but you're just gonna pluck the heart right out of there. You see some of that trauma kind of spilling out of there. You definitely want to clean this real good. That's what a fully dressed duck looks like. So that gadwall had a little bit of trauma on the chest, made the decision to just go ahead and pull all the skin back, no pluck, duck. Now I'm gonna start on this mallard. When plucking a duck, it's not my favorite thing to do, so I do as little as I have to do. If you see here below my deck, done quite a bit of plucking this season already. One recommendation I have for plucking ducks is find a windy spot or somewhere where those feathers will get away from you. To pluck a duck, I'd like to put it on some kind of stable surface, and I'm taking my thumb and just grabbing and throwing it up, going against the grain of the feathers. I'll rub my fingers like this, like you see, too, to get kind of those last little bitty pieces. So I've got most of what's there in the center. I'm gonna want to go ahead and take all this around the edge too, as much as I can. My cut's gonna end somewhere around there, but it's still gonna pull some of that skin, and with that will come some feathers. All right, so now the cut. This cut's gonna be nearly identical to the one that we just did on the gadwall. Just following that sternum. go. That's what you want right there. So same as the gadwall, I flip the duck over. A little bit trickier, right-handed cutting this side, but to get two fatty breasts. This one's got a broke leg, and it's really difficult to keep that leg on there, and a little dangerous. We want to pull that fat off from around the leg. Gonna start that. So just separated that fat from around the leg. Don't expect to get as much off of a duck that has a broke leg either. Dislocate the leg, index finger on hip, thumb on knee. I've dislocated it. You're left with your exposed bone. We're still going to clean that bone up, but that obviously wasn't going to last. I use sheet metal cutters. These do a really good job of just a flat cut on that bone without splintering it or anything. With this leg. Broken leg, but still some good meat there. Separating that fat from around it. Pull as far back as I can. Finger and thumb. To save yourself from really picking off all those feathers, which can be a chore. Grabbing the heart, go back under that breastplate, grabbing the tuft of the butt of the bird with my other hand, and just busting that chest open. That heart's gonna stick straight up, and then you just pluck it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, and the Midwest Flyways guys will shoot them my way, and I'll do my best. Been hunting ducks my entire life here in Arkansas. Love doing it, and this is as important as any part of the process, in my opinion. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're having a wonderful season wherever you are.